Nanahoshi collapsed, and the answer waiting for us was worse than fever or poison. A disease from 7,000 years ago, no cure in the records, no time to search slowly. If there was one person who might know the old world, I had to find her. AI Anime and Manga presents Lament. If you are enjoying this adaptation, please tap like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments whether you would gamble on Kishirika 2. YouTube members get upcoming episodes early, and your support helps cover the narration, subtitles, artwork, music, and rendering that keep this project moving. 3 days had passed since Nanahoshi collapsed. We still did not know what had caused her to throw up blood. 3 days had passed since Nanahoshi collapsed. She had yet to regain consciousness, and we still did not know what caused her to throw up blood. Our Manfi appeared almost the moment Sylphie left to get help. He looked Nanahoshi over and carried her straight to the sickbay. In the meantime, I gathered everyone and explained what little I knew. Nanahoshi's condition had worsened, Sylphie had tried detoxification magic, and Nanahoshi had spat blood and collapsed. It had all happened so fast. They were taken aback, but they understood the situation. At the moment, Yuruzu of Atonement was looking after Nanahoshi. Yuruzu possessed a special healing power that allowed her to transfer one person's stamina and health to another. Since this operated very differently from detoxification magic, it could be effective against illnesses that could not be cured through normal means, supposedly anyway. The only issue was that Yuruzu could not do it alone. She needed someone else's cooperation to perform her magic. Sylphie immediately volunteered. Yuruzu had her lie beside Nanahoshi and began working her magic. Nanahoshi's face stayed contorted in anguish throughout the process, and her coughing fits were ceaseless even while she remained unconscious. Perugius glanced at Nanahoshi once before ordering one of his subordinates to inspect her. "Carawante, how is she?" The man at his command was Carawante of Insight, whose ability allowed him to peer through the unknown and identify a person's secrets. It also meant he could analyze an illness, almost like X-ray vision. Carawante looked at Nanahoshi, or maybe through her, and shook his head. "It is not something Yuruzu can cure with her powers," Perugius said. "Then search the archives." Carawante answered, "As you command." With that, Perugius' subordinate began searching for information on this illness and how to cure it. Carawante would compare the symptoms he had observed in Nanahoshi with the literature kept in the fortress. I offered to help, but Perugius flatly turned me down. He had no intention of letting an outsider into his archives. In the interim, Yuruzu continued her treatment, and Sylphie remained in the sickbay. I was left with nothing to keep me preoccupied. Of course, I did not spend the next 3 days doing absolutely nothing. I returned home and updated Roxy on our situation, letting her know Nanahoshi had collapsed and Sylphie was helping treat her. That meant we would be a bit delayed in returning home. After hearing everything, Roxy immediately took action. She contacted the university and requested time off, then explained everything to our family in my stead. She also promised to take care of everyone while we were gone. She was far calmer and more collected than I was. No doubt she was used to these sorts of situations. In the end, I did not actually do anything. Roxy did it all in my stead. All I did was remind Aisha and Norn once again that we would be late coming back. Then I grabbed an extra change of clothes and hurried back to the floating fortress. Not that there was anything I could do when I got back except pray Nanahoshi would come out of this safely.
I wonder if she will recover.
Like me, Cliff had nothing to do other than twiddle his thumbs. The castle had a chapel, and that was where Cliff went to offer his fervent prayers. With his hands clasped and his eyes closed, he said, "Let thy will be done, Lord Millis." People of faith often prayed like this in times of trouble. As for me, I had never believed in any sort of higher power. I only put faith into the people who had helped me in this world. And I knew that even if I prayed to Roxy or Sylphie, it would not relieve the anxiety I felt. As the silence stretched on, I suddenly remembered a movie I had seen long ago. It was a famous one about aliens taking over the world. Their scientific advancements allowed them to overpower mankind and wipe us out. But at the very end of the film, their machines all came to a screeching halt. They had no immunity to the common cold virus, and it decimated them all. Nanahoshi had teleported to this world. She was not reincarnated into it like I was. On top of that, she did not age, and she could not use magic or magical implements. Perhaps it was not simply mana she lacked, but immunity to pathogens in this world as well. No, if that were the case, she should have fallen ill much sooner. It had been 8 years since the displacement incident. That was a long time for her to go unaffected. My lips thinned. Was she actually going to die? A little time passed. Today was the 4th day since Nanahoshi collapsed. We were all called into a room with a round table. Perugius and all of his familiars were present except for Yuruzu of Atonement. They stood behind their lord as he took his seat in an extravagant chair. Silveril said, "Please sit." We did as she asked, settling into our chairs. Sylphie was still assisting Yuruzu with Nanahoshi's treatment, so without her there were only 6 of us left. Once we were seated, Silveril stepped forward. "We have discovered what ails Lady Nanahoshi." "So they finally figured out what it is," Silveril said. "The name of her illness is Drine Syndrome." Drine Syndrome? This was the first I had heard of it. I glanced around. It seemed I was not the only one. Cliff probably had the most medical knowledge among us, but even he looked confused, shaking his head. Silveril continued, "It is not surprising that you are unfamiliar with it. It was active an eon ago, when humans possessed less mana than they do today. Back then, a number of children were born without any mana at all. By the time they reached 10 years of age or so, without exception, they would die from this syndrome." Well, that did seem to match what Nanahoshi was experiencing. Although she was not a 10-year-old, she had been in this world for 8 years by now, and she did not possess any mana. So her illness definitely was not Sylphie's fault after all. Silveril said, "According to the literature, those who do not possess mana of their own lack the ability to neutralize outside mana that filters in. Thus, it accumulates inside them over a decade and causes this illness." I did not quite understand what that meant, but it sounded similar to the concept of good and bad bacteria. Having your own mana meant having good bacteria to flush out the bad, but people without any would only build up bad bacteria in their bodies instead. While I was not sure how much we could trust Silveril's literature, her explanation did make sense.
Did you find anything about how to cure this illness?
Silveril answered, "There was nothing. This took place 7,000 years ago. As humans' natural mana strengthened over time, the syndrome died out. That time frame meant the syndrome was active prior to the first great human-demon war. If memory served, that war was said to have lasted a millennium. Such vast conflict brought about great evolution. However they did it, mankind must have managed to strengthen themselves. It only made sense that Drine Syndrome died off as a natural byproduct. Nonetheless, 7,000 years was a long time. It was not surprising they had little literature left on the topic. It was a miracle we had managed to find out the name of what plagued Nanahoshi."
So what do we do?
This time it was not Silveril who responded, but Perugius, whose imposing form sat rigidly in his luxury chair. "Freeze her in time. Scarecode of Time can use his power to freeze Nanahoshi's clock." A man stepped forward as Perugius spoke. He wore a mask that protruded at the mouth. It somewhat resembled the puckered lips of a Hayotoko mask. No, maybe more like a gas mask, so he was Scarecode of Time. I was pretty sure his ability was to freeze the time of anyone he touched. It would stop his time as well, but at least if he used it on Nanahoshi, it would keep her from dying or getting any worse.
All right. What do we do after that?
Perugius said we contact people on the surface and look for a way to cure it. Okay, that was one way to do it. With Perugius's reputation, surely there were not many who would turn us away, Perugius added, although I have no idea how many people out there will want to try to save her.
Can you use your influence to help her?
Perugius answered, Nanahoshi and I are merely bound by contract. I will not put myself in debt to other people to help her. That sounded awfully cold to me. That said, I knew nothing about their relationship, so I was not about to stick my nose where it did not belong. Perugius said, "Do not misunderstand me. You are my guest, so I will do what I can to help. However, my entire life's purpose is to seek out Laplace and vanquish him. What aid I can offer only extends so far. I cannot assist her at the cost of my own objective." So basically, since watching over Laplace was his job, he would not put in extra effort into helping her. If he requested help from someone else, that would put him in their debt, which he would eventually have to repay. It would be an especially heavy debt considering we needed a cure for a syndrome that had not existed for thousands of years. There was no telling what kind of price would be extracted for a favor like that. Perugius had no obligation to someone like Nanahoshi. No, in fact, he had already done more than he was duty-bound to do. He had treated her condition and was keeping her alive. That was why he was making this declaration, saying he would not do any more than he already had. If one of us wanted to save her, we were welcome to do so. I did not think there was anything wrong with that. Cliff erupted, springing to his feet. "You are just planning to abandon Nanahoshi then?" Perugius answered. "I never said I would abandon her," Cliff shouted. "Liar! You have this incredible castle and all of these exceptional familiars at your disposal. If anyone can search for a cure, you should be able to." Perugius's brow twitched. Having the ability to do something does not mean one is obligated to do it. Cliff snarled. "Enough of your games. It is the duty of those with power to help those in need." Perugius said, "Do not push Millis's annoying religious drivel onto me." Cliff snapped back. "What did you say?" I knew Cliff was merely speaking out of anger. He was a believer in Millis, which resembled Christianity from my previous world. Perhaps one of Millis's teachings was that people should extend the hand of mercy to those lambs in need of succor. I thought it was a mistake to say that to Perugius, though. He was operating on his own sense of morality. For the past 400 years, he had been working toward one objective. He was interested in Nanahoshi's research on summoning from other worlds, but that did not take priority over Laplace. It was mostly a way for him to kill time. Cliff said, "What you are saying is tantamount to abandoning Nanahoshi. If you are going to help her, you should commit to doing it right." After Cliff kicked his chair, Elinalise seized him by the shoulders and held tight so he could not move. "Cliff, enough. I know how you feel, but hold it in." His lips drew taut. Elinalise continued, "I do not want to lose you over something like this." Around the room, all 11 of Perugius's familiars were poised for battle. Perugius took one glance at Cliff, who was comparatively powerless, and his lips curled into a mocking smile. "If you are so bothered over her condition, why do you not take action? Your God would say the same, would he not? When helping those in need, do not rely on others. I believe it was." Cliff scowled as he slid back down into his chair, vexed by Perugius's words. Surely it had not been his intention to jump down Perugius's throat. It simply upset him that someone so powerful, who seemed capable of anything, would not try to help us. I took a deep exhale. Okay, now what? I wanted to help Nanahoshi out, but I had no idea where to start. The rest of the group seemed similarly stumped. Within my family, Aisha in particular had spent a lot of time with Nanahoshi and would be sad if she passed. Plus, if we did nothing and watched Nanahoshi wither away, Sylphie would blame herself. Was there something I could do? As the door to the room swung open, Yuruzu of Atonement stepped inside. "Pardon me. Lady Nanahoshi has regained consciousness." The moment I heard that, I jumped out of my chair.
And? How is she?
Yuruzu said, "On the surface, her symptoms seem to have improved."
Meaning?
Yuruzu answered, "Drine syndrome causes a buildup of mana, which alters one's body and leads to illness. We have managed to treat those symptoms. By the sounds of it, Drine syndrome seemed to resemble AIDS. All of her coughing up until now must have been a sign. That was why our detoxification magic was effective at clearing her surface symptoms, but never entirely got rid of the problem."
Can you absorb the mana from her body or something?
Yuruzu answered, "I am not able to do that, no."
Then do you know anyone who can?
Yuruzu slowly shook her head.
Oh, all right then.
I wondered if there was some other way we could drain the excess mana out of her body. For instance, we could make a magic implement with such properties. Surely our ability to make such objects had progressed in the 7,000 years since Drine syndrome first appeared. What else could we do? Could I use the mana absorption stone to cleanse her? No, that thing was not capable of absorbing mana from inside a person's body. Although I got the feeling it was not impossible to use it that way. Maybe we should make something instead? But how long would it take to make something with those capabilities? And there was not even any guarantee we could make such a thing. Shit.
At any rate, I am going to go see how Nanahoshi is doing.
I made my way to the door. The others quickly followed me. A little time passed. The sickbay was desolate. It had the same furniture as the guest rooms, but the interior was made of windowless stone. An operating table of sorts stood in the center of the room, and there was also a cabinet containing a knife and bandages and other medical supplies. Silence hung in the air. Nanahoshi was in a bed in the corner of the room. All the blood she had hacked up was gone now. At some point, Sylphie and Yuruzu had given her a pristine white gown, as if she were some kind of hospital patient. From the outside, there was no indication that she was in any danger, yet the life seemed to have been drained from her.
Nanahoshi, are you okay?
Nanahoshi glanced at me. "Do I look okay to you?" No, she did not. Her face was deathly pale, and there were dark bags under her eyes. You could tell she was ill just by looking. Perhaps Yuruzu's powers of atonement were also draining for the patient. Incidentally, the bed beside Nanahoshi's was empty. Yuruzu had Sylphie carried off to her guest room right as we came in. I had seen Sylphie in passing, and she looked emaciated. She had been helping with Nanahoshi's treatment these past 4 days. Although she had not gone without food and water, it still had a noticeable impact on her constitution. Nanahoshi said, "Yuruzu said they cannot cure me."
I know.
I sat beside her. It seemed Miss Yuruzu had not hidden any of the details from Nanahoshi.
Well, I am sure you will get better soon, though.
Nanahoshi turned her gaze to the wall and went quiet. We both know I will not. Perhaps saying that had been a bit reckless of me. After a long, drawn-out silence, Ariel and the others tried talking to Nanahoshi. Some of them tried to comfort her, some encouraged her to keep her spirits up, and others promised she would get better soon. They were all just trying to brighten her mood, but unfortunately, in times like this, sometimes that had the opposite effect. For those in pain, there was nothing more contemptible than empty reassurance. Nanahoshi would not respond to anything, so they all eventually ran out of things to say. An oppressive silence permeated the air, stifling the atmosphere. Ariel was the first to leave. "Well then, Nanahoshi, I should be getting back to my room. I will come see you again." The others soon trickled out after her. Cliff lingered. It was only with Alinalise's prompting that he finally vacated the room. When they slipped out the door, I heard Alinalise say, "There are no words we can offer her." I was the only one left. I did not know why I had stayed, but I felt like I needed to be here with her, that it would be dangerous to leave her alone right now. There was nothing I could say to her, though, not when she was sick with an incurable illness. Anything I said would be pointless. Nanahoshi had to be filled with anxiety. Her research on summoning magic was headed in the right direction. She had once been stalled at the first stage, but she had sailed past the second and third phase. Judging by what Perugius said, she already had all she needed to move to the next step. I had no idea how close she was to the 5th phase of her research, but if things kept up the way they had been, she could probably go home in another year or 2. But just as things finally started to look up for her, this happened. It was like a cancer diagnosis. Even though cancer was no longer considered untreatable in my world, the death rate was still quite high. It was enough to drive Nanahoshi into a corner and fill her with despair. It would not be surprising if she snapped again. If it really was true that this illness had no cure, then she had no future waiting for her. If it meant she would never be able to return home, then maybe she deserved the right to go berserk. Perhaps if she unleashed her fury until there was nothing else left, she could settle down and find some way to enjoy what little time she had left. If she decided to cut loose, I would stick by her side to the end. As I sat there in silence, Nanahoshi sighed and began speaking in a voice more cheerful than I expected, though it was empty and insincere. I never had a strong body to begin with, you know. I would not really say I was the sickly type, but I did catch a cold about once every year. I kept quiet and listened as the words poured out of her. Nanahoshi said, "My grades were good, but I was not really athletic. I preferred being indoors." After a brief pause, she changed the subject. "This world has not made much progress on the medical front, has it?" When I did not respond, she continued, "Maybe it is because they are so reliant on magic in this world, but did you know the people here do not even wash their wounds after they have been injured? As a result, there are many who receive treatment too late and die or lose a limb. Idiots, are they not? Even just cleaning their wounds with ordinary water would prevent such infections from ever happening." I waited and she switched to a different topic. Nanahoshi said, "Ever since I realized I cannot use magic, I have been taking a number of precautions. I avoid crowded places to keep from contracting any illnesses. I also refuse to eat food that I am unfamiliar with. These pauses continued, interspersed with her random thoughts. Nanahoshi said, I might look really unhealthy from your perspective, but I have actually been exercising in my room. I have been staying as fit as I can in my own way. I mean, I knew if I got sick, it might not be treatable. In fact, I figured it would probably be incurable. And it would probably be some illness I had never even heard of before. Nanahoshi continued, Do you not think this world is pretty strange to begin with? There are monsters here heavy enough to crush you, and I do not know if it is the magic or what, but this world seems to ignore the laws of physics altogether. Nanahoshi went on, I mean, okay, sure. I thought this place was pretty cool when I first came. I have actually played quite a few video games myself, and I do not hate swords and magic and stuff. I would be lying if I said I did not find it kind of exciting. Part of me once felt jealous of you for being able to reincarnate into a world like this. Her voice trailed off suddenly and her shoulders trembled. Slowly, she turned her face toward me. Her eyes were red and puffy as they welled up. Nanahoshi said, I do not want to die. The tears came falling one after the other as if a dam had burst inside her. Nanahoshi cried, I do not want to die in a place like this, not in this freaky, weird world. Why? Why is this happening to me? It does not make any sense. Did you know that my body has not changed once in these past 8 years? I have not grown any taller, and my hair is the same length as it ever was, but my stomach growls, and if I eat, I still poop. Yet my nails will not grow, and I have not had any periods either. She lashed out and grabbed a nearby pitcher, which she flung across the room. It struck the opposing wall and shattered, splashing water all over the floor. Nanahoshi wailed, I am not a human of this world. I am not living here. I am like a walking corpse. So why? Why am I able to get sick? It is completely messed up. Why does this have to happen to me? I do not want to die. I do not want to die in this stupid, weird world. The tears came faster and faster as she wailed. Nanahoshi continued, I mean, I have not even kissed anyone. I have not told the guy I love how I feel yet. I am so jealous of you. You enjoy every single day, living each moment to its fullest. What do you have to be sad about? Oh, so your dad died and your mom is seriously ill. So what? Who cares? I will not even get to see my dad before I die. My mom is not even going to know I am gone. I miss them, both my mom and my dad. Nanahoshi kept going. I still remember the morning before I teleported here. My dad said he would come home early that day, and my mom said she was going to grill some mackerel for dinner. I told him that I had friends coming over, so I would prefer he not come home early, and I told my mom I was sick to death of mackerel. Why did I say those things? I am sure they are both really worried. I miss them. I want to go home. I do not want to die. I do not want to die here. She looped her arms around her legs, burying her face in her knees. Muffled sobs spilled out of her, along with hiccups and mournful cries. The pain in her voice was like a dagger to my heart. When I first came to this world, I probably would not have empathized with her at all. She missed them. She wanted to go home. She wanted to see her family again. The person I was back then would have been baffled to hear anyone say such things. I would have thought, just forget about them and enjoy the new world you are in. Now things were different. I understood wanting to go home and wanting to see her family again. I knew how precious those seemingly monotonous days could be. Once they were gone, you could never get them back again. Ever. Paul was dead. Zenith's memories might never come back. The warm family I knew from Buena Village was gone. However, in its place, I now had a new family to protect. Sylphie, Roxy, Lucy, Lilia, Aisha, Norn, and Zenith. If I were somehow separated from my girls forever, it would tear my heart in two. If any of them were to vanish on me, I would go to the ends of the earth to find them again. And if I were somehow transported back to my old world, it would not matter if I could use magic there or if girls tripped over themselves to shower me with attention. I would still be dead set on coming back to this world. Nanahoshi's entire body shook as she squeezed her arms around her knees, hiccuping between sobs. She had never gotten any closer to Zenoba, Cliff, or Sylphie than was absolutely necessary, but she always listened to me. When I asked her for something, she would oblige. When I held a party, she would attend. In hindsight, she had never treated me unkindly. She brightened up just a bit whenever we spoke Japanese to each other. As the only person who could speak her mother tongue here, I was her one wrist beat from it all. In a quiet voice, Nanahoshi cried, "Please, someone save me." I got out of my chair. I returned to the room with the round table to find Perugius still seated inside. His familiars had all left. He was there all alone, as if he had been waiting for me. Perugius asked, "What is it?"
I will save her. I would greatly appreciate it if you could spare me any assistance, but I will not ask for more than you are willing to give.
His brows lifted in surprise, but he nodded. "Oh, you are going to look for a way to save her?" He stared fixedly at me as if trying to ascertain how genuine I was being and how determined I was to see this through. I sensed skepticism from him, as if he did not think I would do anything unless it benefited me, but I was not really the calculating type. Since I had nothing to hide, I stared right back at him. Perugius said, "Very well, I would be aggrieved to see her die as well." Great, I had decided what I was going to do, but now where did I start? This was an illness extinguished over 7,000 years ago. None of us had a clue how we could find a cure for it. All we knew for sure was that detoxification magic and healing magic were ineffective. Perugius would have said something if the cure were that simple. Maybe a magical implement? But I had no idea if that would do the trick either. If we were looking for a magical implement that could affect someone internally, Cliff had engineered one for Elinalise. In her case, he had improved it over time while ascertaining its effectiveness, but even then it had not entirely lifted her curse. Still, perhaps we could do the same with Nanahoshi and gradually work on her condition while adding improvements to the device. That would, however, require us to monitor her constitution for changes over time, and Nanahoshi probably did not have that much time. She had vomited blood during this flare-up. Yuruzu had cured the surface symptoms, but they would no doubt reappear soon. She might not live through the next flare-up. On top of that, with her body frozen in time, there was no opportunity for us to experiment. So we could not use a magical implement. Perhaps we could make one eventually, but right now we needed something with immediate effects. Maybe someone knew of such a treatment, like Man-God or Orsted. They were the most likely candidates in my mind. Problem being, I had no way of contacting Man-God. With any luck, he might visit me in my dreams tonight and impart his advice, but our communication was entirely by his leisure. I had no way of reaching out. Plus, we did not have the time to spare waiting around and hoping he might show up.
Lord Perugius, is there any way for us to contact Dragon God Orsted?
Perugius answered, "No. I do not know his current location, so even Orsted was beyond our reach." Perugius added, "In any case, I doubt he would know a solution either. He only appeared in this world about 100 years ago. Wise though he may be, he would have no way of knowing about an illness from 7,000 years ago. Orsted was about 100 years old then. I figured he had been around longer than that. Compared to Perugius, he was pretty young, even if he was still way older than me."
All right, but then who in the world would know about a 7,000-year-old illness?
My voice trailed off as the answer struck me. Wait, there was such a person. I had just remembered. Yes, indeed. There was someone who had lived that long. I did not get the impression that she knew a lot about diseases and the like, but there was no harm in asking.
Actually, there is someone who comes to mind.
Perugius asked, "Oh?" That said, I had no idea how to find her. The last time we met was entirely by coincidence, and we parted ways not long after we ran into each other. I had little connection with her on top of having no way to contact her. Still, I had to do something. If I waited around here, nothing would change.
Would it be possible for you to send me to the Demon Continent?
Perugius asked, "The Demon Continent? And what do you plan to do there?" I had only met this person once in the past. Roxy had apparently run into her as well, but it was anyone's guess as to where she was now. Nonetheless, I had known her name for a long time, having studied about her exploits when I lived in the Fitoa region. Our meeting was one I would never forget.
I would like to track down the Demon World's great emperor, Kishirika Kishirisu.
Kishirika. That was the name of the woman responsible for the first great human-demon war that happened 7,000 years ago. The cure was not in the archives. Orsted was out of reach. So I chose the only name left from an age old enough to matter, Kishirika Kishirisu. Next time, the search moves toward the Demon Continent, where a rumor, a root, and one impossible illness may finally meet. If you want the next part, tap like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments whether Rudeus is brave, desperate, or both. YouTube members get upcoming episodes early, and your support helps cover the narration, subtitles, artwork, music, and renders for the channel. Thanks for watching AI anime and manga.